So it's just the experience I had from going to being a small developer and just doing debugging with my logs to actually use my logs to have a better business and to make more money if possible. So short disclaimer, I'm not here to talk about me. I hope I will not brag about myself in any way. Not about my company, it's not a commercial presentation. Not about debugging. Debugging is very dependent on the framework, the language you use, and the developer you have. I hate buzzwords. I hope I will not use any of them. I feel sometimes the tech people are like Justin Bieber fans with some buzzword. I hate it. And I'm not going to talk about system logs, like the logs that are automatically generated by operating systems and stuff like that. So, introduction. The fact is storage is very cheap now. Very, very cheap. You cannot believe 10 years ago that you could store so many data as you can today. So I advise you to store everything you can. If you have a company, if you want to have a better business, just store everything you can. Even if today you don't know if the data has value, it may have in the future. And storage is cheap, so just seriously store. Computing is now a commodity. So we have distributed computing for everyone. We have, you can launch 50 servers or VMs in any cloud, public cloud available, or your own private cloud. So just build systems to use this feature. With this, it means for me logs for everyone, not just for developers, but also for operations and business teams. So developers just want to debug, test, just check the state of their variables in their program, check that everything is going as they planned. Operations want to detect system failures, performance bottlenecks, and deployment effect consequences. So when you deploy a new version of your application, you want to know as an operation manager that everything is at least better than before and not worse. Business team, they want to make money. They really want to make money, but to make money, you need to analyze data, get insights, detect patterns, predict the future, blah, blah, blah. So logs, application logs, can application logs help all these people? Yes. So developers, I will not talk a lot about them here again. It's just a good idea to let them develop as they like and debug as they like. Just teach them the basic. If you want to use your log afterwards, do not log anything or in any way you want, because you may end up with that in your logs. So, well, logging so in the logs you have trace, debug, info, warning, errors, and then you have info logs that tell you overwrite different than 2, okay? Thank you, developer. I'm very happy to know that, but I cannot do anything with that. So just try to at least have a look on how they use logging and teach them the basics. For operations, can application log really help operation? Yes, because you can use logs smartly to do metrics. If you log, for instance, for a method call or a web service call, the latency you got or the execution time you got, then you can do aggregates with a good logging system, and you have real-time latency, external latency, so latency for your users, for external web services call, but also internal latency. Inside your application, you can know if something is going wrong. Very useful for service-oriented architectures and stuff like that. So you can augment your monitoring solution, that is checking the state of your systems, with data coming from logs, from application logs. For business operations, so business teams, it's harder, I must say. Myself, I have a very hard time to use my logs correctly for the business teams, and that's what I'm learning currently. But it's very important. If you cannot do it yourself, you need to hire data scientists, data engineers, very hard to find because it's all the big data stuff. Oops, I used the buzzword. But some companies like maybe Amazon have a lot of them and they hire every one of them. So let's go inside technical stuff a little bit. What do I want for a log system? I want centralization. You do not want to connect to different systems to get different type of data. You want everything at one place. Sorry. And you want scalability. So you want that your log system follows the success of your application. So I'm now in the casual gaming environment, which means sometimes we have 500,000 users, new users inside our app in one day. We can generate 30 to 100 gigabytes of logs per day. You want your log system to follow that kind of thing. So, to talk about scalability, I will just have a small example from a small e-commerce company based in Seattle. And what they had, it's from many years ago. They wanted to build a system which analyzes orders, and then does a monthly payment to some users. It's depending on what kind of orders, and they give us some percentage of the order to some users. So what they did, they had one engineer build a C++ application. It was doing a daily aggregate of the data, and every month doing the payment using the daily aggregates. And then Q4 2003 came. So Q4, quarter four, if you work in commerce or e-commerce, you know that it's a peak. Cyber Monday, Black Friday, whatever. And then the application was running out of memory. That just bought a new server or added memory to the server. And then came Q4 2004. Everything was crashing. And the application was needing more than 24 hours to do a daily aggregate. It does not work. You cannot do the monthly payment afterward. So they actually bought again a new server, more capacity, etc. But sometimes the growth of your company, for this e-commerce company at least, goes faster than the Moore's law. So if you cannot buy capacity, you do not have any server to handle the load. So in the end, after several years, they had to completely replace the application with a MapReduce application. And now they just fire 60 servers, and it takes 30 minutes to compute every day. So how does it apply to log? A log is what is data, any kind of data, a timestamp, at what time did this log happen, and a source. Where does this log come from? A log system is a destination for this data. So log constant stream of time-ordered information. It's directly linked to the application success. If you have more users, you will have more logs. That's as simple as that. So don't build something that is not scalable. I'm going faster because I think I'm running out of time. So let's build this log system. You have an application, you have a cool server, you want to save logs. Let's buy a SSD drive. It's cool. SSD drive is not that cheap, it's quite expensive, but it has a good throughput. You should be okay with that. You have growth? Yeah, just do a SSD RAID array, sorry. Right, should handle good amount of logs, right? You do not want to do that. It's vertical scaling. It's not good for a log system. You cannot handle that kind of growth. So this is from this weekend, actually, because we launched the game last week, end of last week. And so you see we had like 200 times more users than previously. And if your log system is just storing data on one disk on the server, it does not work. And also, if you have multiple servers, you have to connect to every server to get your logs. So if you have an issue, or if you want to analyze data, it's impossible. So let's build a log system. You have one application, everything goes inside the log system. What's cool about it, you have a service, you can log inside the log system. You have a second application, you have backend, front end, whatever you have, everything goes into a log system. So let's have a look at what is a log system, in my opinion. We need storage. You need to store your data. Two kinds of major storage: blob, object storage, like think S3, or database for indexed data. We need a front end, something to receive logs. What do you do with your front end? Do you do polling? Do you do push? So polling is the front end will connect to the different services and get the logs. Push is all different services. We push the logs directly to the receiver. So here, there is no best solution. Actually, usually you do a mix of both, depending on what system do you want to log, on the kind of log, and at what rate they arrive. And we need a user interface. So you tell a developer, I'm going to give you a user interface for logs. But I'm a nerd, I don't need a user interface, come on. I have grep, I can open your files, and I can grep my way inside your logs. No, you don't want to do that. When you have 100 gigabytes of log a day in different files, it will not work. So ideal situation, you have an interface that is suitable for devs, for ops, for business teams. It's actually very hard to have, but some solutions are coming to that situation. So let's talk about implementation of this kind of system. You have commercial services applications that are doing that. They are kind of cool, but what we chose is open source solution. It's called Logstash. It's very cool actually, and it uses Elasticsearch as a DB and Kibana as an interface. So why Logstash? It's very, very flexible. First, it's open source. It's written in Ruby, JRuby to be exact, and it's built by DevOps, buzzword, who know how painful it is to read logs at 4 a.m. So it's kind of cool. So what is a Logstash instance? It gets data, transform, filters, aggregate, rejects some kind of data you do not want to store, and it outputs data. So it's an ETL for logs. It's configured by a simple text file. You configure inputs. You have actually 130 plugins for Logstash for different formats, different systems. You configure a filter. If you want to parse your data, just extract some information on some lines. If you have a Java exception that is sometimes 40 lines, you want to aggregate this into one log, and you output your data. Here it's Elasticsearch output. Elasticsearch, it's not to talk about Elasticsearch, it's a database, scalable by design, it's very cool. And Kibana, it's a user interface. It's gorgeous. I like it, seriously, it's very easy to use, it's pure JavaScript. It connects to Elasticsearch via JavaScript call, so you do not need a PHP server or an application server to host it. You can even host it on your own computer, because it connects via JavaScript to Elasticsearch. You can just use a file to serve it to your browser. The only thing is you need to think about the security of your database when you do that, because it's actually going through plain HTTP through the network if you do not have a Nginx front end to your Elasticsearch, for instance. So that's what we got. Logstash, you can store data on S3 for further analysis. You can store data in Elasticsearch, and Kibana to query that data. Are we done? Mm-hmm. What happens when you have a lot of applications that can have a very high throughput and only one Logstash receiver? Doesn't work. So, and another issue you have to handle is how Logstash will gather all this data. Do you want to create one input for each of your data? You will have a huge configuration file that is hard to maintain. You add a new system, you need to change the configuration file. You don't want to do that. So you use a message broker. I love message brokers. I love Redis. So that's what I use. You can use any kind of AMQP broker also with Logstash, or build your own plugin if you have something cool to use. And what you do is you have all your applications, log inside Redis, and you have Logstash querying Redis to get the data. Shipper is a Logstash instance also that is configured on your systems to get the logs inside Redis. So you can either have, like, we have a Java application that is using Logback or Log4Java to send via TCP to a Logstash instance installed on the server itself that will transfer the data to Redis. Or you can have a Logstash instance. We did a log file where you append your data and inserting it into Redis. And what in the end you can have is a log backlog. So that was, I think it was also this weekend. I had an issue with Logstash. So data should be here. And it was 40 minutes late. So data was coming faster than Logstash was processing it. But what we have is horizontal scaling, and that's wonderful. You just launch more Logstash receivers, and everything goes into order. They will work faster together and insert data into Elasticsearch. And last slide, let's talk a little bit about analytics. I cannot talk about analytics, of course, in 10 minutes. And as I told you, that's not my best side, I would say. You can do some small analytics directly with Logstash and Kibana. So here I've built 4 queries. The queries are very small. They are actually 4 words. So, and what I wanted to know is on our application, the new one, in Germany and in the US, what are the percentage of paying users versus non-paying users? So we are casual gaming, freemium games. We want our user to give us money. And usually a few of them do, and that's how we live. And just with one query that is real time, just press enter and the data is updated here. I could say that 97% of German users were not paying, and 98% of US users were not paying. So German, I like Germans. I have a little bit of German accent sometimes when I speak English. You may have heard that. I worked in Luxembourg. And they give us a little bit more money than US people. Thank you.